One thing I want to delve a bit deeper into, a couple of things, but one main thing on the channel is all the well-being type of stuff, because that's something that interests me and has done. I know I've got a fiance, she's all into that as well, and I know how important it is for personal health, well-being, in terms of like what people should be doing. What's your daily practice like that you do that you think that adds value to your life, and what sort of 5 things or key things do you think that if you haven't got a practice, what are the sort of 5 key points that you think everybody should be doing regardless that's going to add value to their life?
5 points?
Yeah, so what's your practice, and what 5 sort of things do you think that someone should 100% be doing?
So let me just, can I give like a foundation to it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right, so I promote getting out into the wild a lot, into nature, and when I take my clients out, what I find is that there's every time pretty much there's a moment where they flick from us talking about life and being in either the past or the future, future aspirations or past things, and reflecting, and then there's boom, wow, look at that view. There's like these moments of presence that happen, and I always, when I set out on my day out, I'm always looking for that moment when they have that moment, if that makes sense, because that for me is worth more than anything. Like, I'm like, wow, there it is. Like, and I try to capture that sometimes on a photograph, or I try to capture it and then remind them later on, do you remember this point, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that moment can be achieved. You don't need to go to the mountains for it. You don't need for some crazy pandemic to happen, or for you don't need like an abrupt thing to happen for you to be present. I think you can achieve that through a daily practice. I think you can achieve that through through being mindful. So my daily practice, where I feel if I don't do this, which I've been guilty of in the last week or so at work, I've been going on shift, I've been coming back off shift like a little bit stressed, and it's where I should be doing it, and then I'll like slip up, and I find that my days merge into these like confusing moments of time, and I'm back into it now, and I go through these waves of doing it and not doing it, and then reminding myself you've got to get back onto it. Nobody's perfect,
that's being human, though, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. But my 5 things that if I can achieve these things on my first 3 things are the most important. So get up and do some exercise, which is like get your body moving, get your blood flowing. It means you'll drink this without even you'll just drink water and it'll just happen. So that's my first thing, water, exercise. My second thing is to breathe. So I did a course in pranayama, which is a breathing technique. It's from yoga. I did a 2-day course on it, and I went in there and I couldn't lay flat on my back. So they put the yoga mats out, and when I laid down on the mat, I had so much lower back pain. I had to put something under my neck to sort of help my back to
flatten out a bit.
After 2 days of breathing, and all we did like small movements, but after 2 days of breathing, I was pain free, and I realized that breathing is like, it's massive, man. It's like it's a massive part of being healthy. And now the funny thing is now that we've got this coronavirus thing, which is a respiratory. It's to do with oxygen. It's to do with the lungs. Medical doctors are now saying breathe deep, take deep breaths. And this is just what I've learned through this thing. So I sit and I do my exercise, and then I sit and I do at least 10 minutes of breathing. Wim Hof does it.
Yeah,
I know
I
somebody
follow
called,
Wim Hof as well, and other people, you know, that are sort of breathing well, I say experts, but they've got their own, you know, sort of unique way of doing things.
yeah,
Each one is, you know, has their own benefits for sure.
yeah. The one that I've been following, a lady called Vicky Shields. She's been doing it for like ages. She goes out to India every year and practices, and yeah, really good. She sort of teaches you the science of it and the practical, like the application of it, how
Yeah,
to do it. So it's not just what I liked about the course was it's not, you're not just learning like how to breathe,
yeah.
like breathe in, breathe out. It's not like, it's like, right, scientifically this has been proven, so if you breathe like this it'll help. So I was like, okay, that worked. I recommend checking her out. She's called Vicky Shields.
Well, I'll link her in the description below. If I can't find her, I'll ask you for the information. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So exercise, breathing, and then I do a journal. So the journal is about. I learned this off Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know Tim Ferriss. I used to watch a lot. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff more recently, but I used to watch him about a year or two ago. A lot of his stuff,
Yeah,
especially
I
around
don't know if you,
different sort of when I was watching him, he was going on about all these different teas that he makes and drinks at certain times and all this sort of stuff. So I was into all that at one stage. Again, myself, you know, I was doing the old classic, yeah, you know, which a lot of the population does, dipping in and dipping out of some of this stuff and just trying to see what worked for me, really.
yeah.
Which is important, I think. You know, again, you're not going to be able to do it all. You've got to try and find what works for you.
Yeah, you get your own formula, right?
Yeah.
What works, like where you live, what your job is, what your family situation is. It all kind of dictates what you can do and when you can do it. So yeah, you've got to mold it around you. But the journaling for me is like after I've meditated or done the breathing exercises, and I literally open the journal and do a whole A4 page of just writing, and I don't structure the writing. I just write what comes into my head. And it's fantastic because sometimes you'll find that it's all very negative, but once you've got it out onto the page, you can kind of like, once you've made it physical, it's easier to let go of. When it's still in your mind, like rattling around, it can take a while to go. So yeah, I journal that, and a lot of the time that helps me to create my next video, if you like.
Yeah.
So exercise, breathing, journaling, and then I like to do something creative. So like have a creative outlet, which is for me is video editing.
Yeah. Sometimes this, or you know, making stuff.
Yeah. I just love. I think it's really important to have that, is to have something creative to do, and that could look like anything. Like it could be, I don't know, paper mache.
You could be doing puzzles or crosswords or anything. It's challenging you, you know, it's challenging your brain, or it's making you think about something, you know. Again, I'd love to delve a little bit. Again, I want to delve a little bit deeper because you've just reminded me of something that I watched only last night, and I know you follow the same guy as well, and I watched it on his platform. It was on London Real with Brian Rose, and during this whole coronavirus pandemic, he's, instead of doing the physical interviews, he has still been doing podcasts, but they've been sort of at a distance, social distancing, so over Skype and stuff like that. And he was speaking to a guy yesterday, and I can't remember his name, but it's one of his most recent videos. The guy's a doctor, and he used to be in the movie called The Secret.
Okay,
Have you seen the movie called The Secret?
I've read the book, man.
You've read the book, but that's based pretty much on the movie, and it, like you say, it's about it's about finding like the right person and all this, finding love or becoming successful or whatever else. And he was talking yesterday, and something really really stuck out, because I do have a daily practice. I train every day. I don't necessarily do them all in the morning or night, or try and get them done when I can in a day. I have specific things that I do, but something he said yesterday just was quite powerful, and it was about affirmations, like positive and negative affirmations. And the examples he used were the fact that if you are the sort of person that doesn't believe in any of that stuff, if you're the sort of person that says, and again, this is probably also comes down to the journaling as well, because he was saying about writing this stuff down is really important, because it gives that connection between the brain and what it is that you're writing. That if you don't believe in any of this stuff, and it's in fact not happening for you, in essence, in essence that's true. Like, in essence, you do believe in that stuff, because you're negatively affirming the fact that none of this stuff ever happens to you, and in fact it doesn't, which means it's true. And that was a point for me that I thought, that's absolutely right. If you're going to say that, well, it's never worked for me and it never will, it won't. But by saying that, you're actually confirming the fact that it works. So
have you heard of it's reflection and refraction, I think they call it. So like, I've read The Secret, and I really liked reading it, but I felt like it left me with a kind of false perception of reality. I think I was like, if I think positively about this thing constantly, it'll happen. But the reality is, I think you actually say it in The Secret, actually. Maybe I was just reading into it wrong, but the reality is, for me anyway, from my experiences, when you send that message out into the... So the idea is your brain is an electrical thing, right? It's an electrical muscle. It's sending electrical signals everywhere. So when you have a thought, it's a electrical signal, right?
Yeah.
It gets pumped out into the universe. And the universe has no way of deciphering whether that's good, whether it's bad, whether it's something you want, something you don't want. It literally is just a signal that goes out into this nothingness, and it always comes back. So this signal always comes back, this electrical signal, and it might not look exactly as you want it to look, but it always comes back. Here's a good example for you. At work the other day, I got told that I needed to build a shelter with the young person that I'm working with. You've got to build a bivvy. You've got to build a shelter with this young person.
Yeah.
Now, when you plan something like that, it doesn't always, like with the young people that we're working with, it doesn't always work out. So you might do something different, like we camped in the garden instead, but we never built the bivvy. We never built the shelter. But in my head, I was thinking, need to build a shelter, really want to build a shelter, want to teach this kid how to build a shelter. Funny thing, the next 2 days later, I get home, I'm out in the garden, I'm doing some gardening, I look up and my partner's building my daughter a shelter, and I just laughed, because I'm like, oh, holy crap, man, it's just happening right in front of my eyes. And
that's the sort of thing he was exactly talking about. And what he was saying, and I'll just mention his name, because I just had to have a look for it then, because I think it's really important. His name's Dr. Joe Vitale. And he was also saying something along those lines too, that you need to be careful, because the universe is working at the same time as you, and it's listening. It reacts to what it is, to everything that everybody says. And by you thinking of all that stuff about the shelter and this and that, somewhere along the line, the universe is working its way to try and meet you somewhere. And when that happens, you find yourself in a situation where you go home and your missus is building a shelter for your young kid. But it also works on the opposite, side of the coin, where, the universe can work in negative ways just as it can in positive ways, and it's mainly based on your thoughts.
The example that's used in The Secret is somebody who's thinking like, I'm fat, I need to lose weight. I'm fat, I need to lose weight. They're thinking, I'm fat. That's what they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And the need to lose weight comes second to the being overweight. So they're never going to lose the weight. But as soon as you start thinking, I exercise and I like exercise and I love eating healthy, as soon as you start thinking like that, all of a sudden being overweight doesn't matter anymore because you're healthy and you exercise, and then the byproduct of that is you lose weight.
Well, that's it.
And I think that with everything that you do in life, like, that's what you've got to look at it like. So for me, being a full-time mountain leader is and having Summit and Beyond, having the channel, the YouTube channel, having my social media, it's like I want to support people to live a healthier life, but then I also want that to be my life. I want that to be what I do, and I suppose the byproduct of that is that I get to go to the mountains a lot, because that's really, like, I love being out in the mountains. I just love it. So yeah, I think you've just got to. Also, I think what's really important is the people that you surround yourself with. So if you're, I think this is probably covered in The Secret as well. It's a long time since I read it, but if you, Tony Robbins, the guy who does all the NLP stuff, he talks about this. If you surround yourself, if you think about the 5 people who you spend the most time with,
I think he says you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're surrounding yourself with 3 people who talk about doom and gloom and fighting and negative things, and they're always getting drunk, and then you essentially, and you've got 2 positive people, those 3 people are going to drown out the noise of the positive vibes. So you've got to try and really focus in on the people that you want to be connected to, or the people that help you propel you forward towards that lifestyle or that dream that you've got for yourself, I suppose.
Another thing you mentioned yesterday as well, which again, is prevalent for me, is I do a lot of stuff alone, on my own. I'm quite happy to be on my own and get stuff done. The YouTube things help me personally to, like, reach out to people, which is great. But another thing he said that really resonated with me yesterday, this Dr. Joe Vital, was you can only get to a certain level on your own. You'll never get to your end goal or your sort of the best you can possibly be on your own. It won't happen. No. You need to have those 5 people or more or less people. You have to be around people, to get there. You can't do it on your own.
My 5th thing, by the way, so I had exercise. What did I have? Exercise, breathing, journaling, something creative. My 5th thing is reading.